I am Betty Warren, Chairman of the American Indian Committee in Key Corner, and we are just so pleased that you're here to join in today with us in our special program called Exploring Choctaw Heritage, a Kids Conversation. Our purpose, of course, is to celebrate our friends, the Choctaws, who have been in our area for about 75 years, and we don't think lots of people know that. November, as many of you probably know, is National American Indian Heritage Month. We want it not to be just balloons and stories in the newspaper, but we want a connection built on knowledge between our chapter, Key Corner, and our Choctaw friends. So, as we begin, I want to introduce our Choctaw elders to you that have agreed to come today and share their knowledge. We've got Hubert Bell on the end here, who is, I call him the tribal chief. We've got his wife, Lacey, who is so kind to come in and work with us today. We've got Johnny Williams, who is the developmental club president, who also is so instrumental in everything that we've done. And we have Adam Bell, who is also here today to help us. These guys moved from Philadelphia, Mississippi, or they didn't, but relatives, ancestors of them moved from Philadelphia, Mississippi, like I said, 75 years ago, into the gold dust community, which was a farming operation. And so they've been here ever since. They've moved from gold dust. They're now in a community outside of Henning, but still very involved and very kind to come today and help us with this project. Now, the purpose of this is a kids' conversation, as I just said, so we are so pleased to have all of these kids in front that are going to ask questions today and help with the program. These are grandchildren of our Key Corner chapter members, so it was a special treat for them to be able to help us today with the program. During the event, these resilient Choctaws will share their stories, their traditions, and their experiences. We wouldn't be in this location if it weren't for Dyersburg State, who is so very kind to share with us. So we thank them so much. We thank Susan Charlie, the librarian, who does an excellent job and helps us. Okay, let's begin. Knowledge is power. So if we use those two ears and that one mouth and listen very carefully, I'm pretty sure the questions that these children are going to ask will provide all of us with knowledge and connection to the Choctaw tribe.
Well, it's an English version of what our tribal name was originally. It's corruption, of course, because most Europeans didn't know how to speak Choctaw to begin with. Just to start with, our name was Choctaw, C-H-A-H-T-A. Now how that became Choctaw, like I said, it's a corrupt version of the English version, so that's how we got the name today is C-H-O-C-T-A-W.
Where the tribe name came from was actually from the chief himself from the very beginning. His name was Choctaw. And at that time, he had a lot of gatherings with him and roaming around to where one day they ended up in Mississippi. Choctaw was his name. And then there was another, his brother was Chickasaw, which is Chickasaw today. So they were actually brothers. So that's where our tribe comes from, the name Choctaw. If you think of Native Americans, Indians, first thing you're gonna think of is teepee. There's a lot of different tribes out there, and the homes are different. And mainly it's due to where you're located at. The buffaloes, where they roam, mostly they'll have the teepees because of the hides they use to make a home out of. In our area, you call it a hut. Poles all the way around with covers of straws, straw-looking type. That's what the Choctaws lived in. Then you have your southwest Native Americans, Navajos, Apaches, they live in a different type of housing, more of a, maybe clay type of houses. So it's different. Even hunting, our meals were different because of the location where we're at. So in our area, we had a lot of trees. So that's what we used to make a home out of.
So I think, at least in this area, you had your two different types of homes. You had your summer houses, which was just basically a roof, and then you had your winter homes, which were dug into the ground just a little bit. I don't know if y'all have ever been like in an underground cave, but it kind of keeps that same temperature year-round, and that was the same premise. But now we got modern homes in our little reservation in Henning. I remember going to school when I was probably y'all's age, and hey, y'all live in teepees over there? No. So there's a lot of misconceptions. Like Johnny was saying, teepees are, those plains tribes. And like with a lot of things now, those old ways are mostly used for ceremonial purposes. There's people that still live in teepees. There's a tribe of Kickapoo that live in like northern Mexico. No running water, no electricity. They still live, I don't want to say primitive, but they still live old ways, Same thing with the southwestern tribes. They live in their hogans and adobe huts, their adobe cliff dwellings, and they still live like they did 100, 200 years ago.
We still live in the same place. But I do want to say, there's a lot of misconceptions. While we're talking about homes and what have you, I want to share this with you that Native Americans out west were the first one that came up with mobile homes. Did you know that? The buffalo hunters. They couldn't stay in one place. They had to follow the buffalo.
Move.
So they would break down their teepees and drag it on to the next stop, and on it goes. So how about medicine? Well, we had our own doctors. They went to the woods and got their roots and leaves and all the other necessary medical stuff that they knew how to use to do all of this stuff, So it's not like we didn't have any doctors or anything. Yes, we had doctors.
So traditionally, deer would probably be the main protein, but down here in this woodland area, they were farmers. So corn, squash, beans. Believe it or not, there were buffalo down here at one point in time. But whatever resource was out there to survive, that's what they ate: bird, squirrel, any kind of small game, whatever you could hunt easy, clean. Whatever was available was used. But like right around that turn of the century when the removal process happened, I mean, if you go to any of these native events now, you see fry bread, Indian tacos. That was just food for survival, and basically that's all they had at that point in time with these rations and stuff like that. If they didn't come up with something and use everything that they had, they were starved. Because let's be honest, that Trail of Tears wasn't the easiest thing. They probably didn't want most of the people to survive on that walkover, and they left a lot of people on that trail. Us right here, direct descendants of the people who didn't leave. So once you start putting that in perspective, my generation's a little different from their generation. Their generation was almost, hey, we're just trying to survive. I don't know if this is in the questionnaires, but maybe it does come up later. My dad will tell you, he got in trouble for speaking his language. So they were just trying to survive and make it into the mainstream world. And my upbringing was different. But now we're trying to reclaim this identity, reclaim this culture. Education is a big part of it. We want y'all to know we're still here. We want you to know we still have our little culture.
So a lot of Native Americans, when you kill something, you eat, yet you use what's with it. I have a little long joke, but one evening we were at a conference back home in Mississippi. A lot of Native Americans, about the last night we all gathered together, sat down and just talked about each other's tribes and getting to know each other. And two young ladies, from Alaska. They were showing pictures of their kill. So the story went about, so I'm thinking they're using guns, and back home we use our rabbit stick to kill rabbits. And that's a lot of skill. You have to throw it, you don't shoot it. So here I am trying to put together how I'm gonna tell my story. So by doing that, I wasn't paying attention to the girls that were telling their stories. So by the time I'm gathering my stories and about to tell, one of the ladies put the phone up and said, "Oh, here it is." I guess they had videoed it. And this is Alaska. So everybody gathered together looking at that phone, and we saw 2 boats coming from the ocean, coming in. And as they zoomed in, there was a big whale they're dragging, bringing it to the shore. And I'm sitting there looking at that whale and thinking about my rabbit story, size of the whale and my little rabbit. All of a sudden, I didn't want to tell my story. So I thought that was funny.
Well, I can't tell you exact numbers as far as how many tribal speakers, but it's called, and this is given to us by the English or predominant language speakers, Europeans at that time, and they called it Muskogee. And where several tribes are listed under that, including Chickasaw, Choctaws, Creeks, Seminoles, and Cherokee. And I don't know what that Muskogean is supposed to mean as far as linguistic affiliation, but aside from Chickasaws, I couldn't understand what Creeks are saying to me, Seminoles, Cherokees, all the other tribes.
The language is pretty much, most of us speak it, but then again, there's the younger generation that are not speaking the language. We learned it at home. When I was growing up, we learned it at home. I was telling Miss Warren and them the other day, when I'm at home, Mom and Dad, that's all we spoke to each other was in our language. Then the next morning, we wake up, there's a bus pulling up, and you go in, and then that's a whole new world that we had to learn. And it was a little difficult. But in time, somehow, I understand we still carry the language. But it's to a point where the younger generations, the younger families are not speaking it at home due to the survival. I understand that part. So we have classes these days in school to teach the younger generations to carry the language.
So stickball has been described as the granddaddy of all sport. You can see elements of football, basketball. I guess the modern equivalent would be lacrosse. And even lacrosse is an evolution of stickball. And it also, back in the day, you would have these different tribal towns. They would settle disputes. Like, we didn't go to war with each other. If we had a disagreement, guess what we were playing? Stickball. Choctaws take pride in stickball. This is almost our tribal identity. Like, if you see a big stickball game, it's going to be Choctaw. You know, we host the World Series of stickball every July during our fair. If you read these old accounts, that they're saying the fields are a mile long, hundreds of players on each side, and you're sitting there trying to score. You're just trying to get that ball to hit that pole. You know, so you got to be fast. You got to be skilled.
You can catch it and throw it. Most of the time it's going to be on the ground. You'll have a few other players alongside you. What we call a huddle. The ball will be right there, and there's maybe 10 players out there trying to get that ball, you know, pushing, kneeing, elbowing, all that good stuff. And this is how we get the ball. And then once you get it, since you don't have any protection, the only protection you have is to hurry up and throw it or run faster than the other guy. We played at a football game these days. I mean, football field these days. We have a goal on one end, another goal on the other end, like the field goals. It's a brother to lacrosse. That's what I'm thinking. Because lacrosse is being played by the Canadians all the way to I'm pretty sure, the Mohawks, the Iroquois, and those tribes from the northeastern side, mostly New York area. And this is the oldest, along with the lacrosse, the oldest field sport in America because it was being played before the Europeans arrived. Again, he mentioned settling disputes, possibly for land, possibly for hunting spots maybe, or if it's just families arguing. Instead of going to war, having a lot of killings, this is how they settle disputes.
This game was played to settle their differences rather than going to war. And because we just completed this in July for the championship game, so if you ever want to go look at it, I'll let Johnny give you the info so you can, if you have trouble going to sleep, you may want to turn it on and watch it, you know.
Sadly, we were the first in the removal. We were the ones that was taken from our land and sent to Oklahoma. When they got there, settled in, and certain things happened, the chief at the time negotiated with the government or the president to name the state. So Oklahoma is a Choctaw word. Oklahoma, red people. Okla means people, a lot of people. Homa means red. So that's a positive out of that, I believe. Then 14 years after the removal, the Oklahoma Choctaw tribe saw that the Irish potato famine, what little money they raised after the removal for themselves, they saw another country, another people were in need, and they donated all their money to help with the survival of that country.
But powwow is like a contemporary native dance. It's an intertribal dance. It doesn't belong to just one tribe. And like I said, we're going to demonstrate at least one dance. You know, we'll use a drum. And like, that's all powwow. Choctaws, we got Choctaw drum, but it's not going to be used the same way as a powwow drum. You know, the songs aren't the same way. Like Choctaws, we have our songs, have our chanters, have our dances. Creeks have their own stomp dances. Cherokees have their own dances. You know, it's not all one thing. But when it comes to powwow, you can kind of go from one tribe to one tribe and one tribe, and it's uniform. I guess the beauty of powwows are you can go from one tribe and participate in one tribe's powwow and then go to a different tribe, but you can't do that with ceremonial dances. Most of the time, these dances are protected from the public.
There's a lot of things that has transformed our lives here, and I'm one of these that I'm able to read, write, and teach Choctaw language. It's all written in the alphabet, and a little bit after the dancing program here, I'm going to pass that around our literature as such. We have a Choctaw Bible, we have Choctaw hymnals. Our songs are mostly church-related songs, so all our singing is contemporary like the church hymnals and so forth. Now, what you're fixing to see in just a moment, but I wanted Adam to describe a little bit about the drums.
All right, so I'll explain a little bit about the drum, and then I'm explaining about Jeremy. So at least the Choctaw drum, it came around, Civil War times. Powwow evolved from like these plain tribes. There's a drum over there that's a ceremonial drum. Powwow drums are over here. And then I brought a little modern hand drum, which is actually synthetic hide. But once you start hearing this drum beat, you kind of start to notice, hey, what does it sound like? You can kind of feel it right here. It sounds like a heartbeat, feels like a heartbeat. You're barefoot on the ground, you can feel that drum beat resonate up. As for dancing, you'll see him keeping time with the beat of the drum. And I don't know if y'all have ever messed with like deer skins or any kind of skins. Once you stretch that skin out and you just kind of tap it just a little bit, you hear that boom, 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 boom. That's how they made these drums. So the dance that Jeremy's dancing, he's dancing the men's traditional dance. This is probably one of the oldest powwow dances that we do have. And it's just, he's going to tell a story. He could be hunting, he could be fighting, different things like this. But it's specific to the dancer. It means something to him. It's up to you to interpret it.
And usually if we're at a powwow and we have a full drum, we'll have one of these set up and you can have anywhere between 3-4 guys. I've seen drum groups of 15, and it just depends. But like I was saying, this is a synthetic skin, so it just makes it easier just for one person to be able to perform. So I'm gonna go ahead and sing this song. Way on ho, hey hey da, hari ho, hey 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 hey, yeah yeah da ho, hey hey da, yeah hey da ho, hey hey ho, hey hey on ho, hey hey hari ho, hey 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 da, yeah yeah da ho, hey hey on ho, hey hey way on ho, hey hey way on ho, hey hey da, hari ho, hey 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 hey, yeah yeah da ho, hey hey da, yeah yeah da ho, hey hey on ho, hey hey way on ho, hey hey hari ho, hey 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 da, yeah yeah da ho, hey hey on ho, hey hey way on ho, hey hey way on ho, hey hey da, hari ho, hey hey hey.
Well, I think that brings us to a close then for what we've done tonight. And we want to thank everybody, as I said earlier, for coming and for your attendance.